Hey guys, it's Nathan with Tumbleweed Bees. Just things are a little bit different this week on the social side. My daughter is actually not here this week, so she can't help me with all my socials and my media content. So I've been encouraged to share some of my more interesting beekeeping stories to share with you guys because most of you probably haven't heard of this unless you know me personally. So we're going to get started with probably the one that comes to mind the most is I used to do a lot of pollination early on in my early days. This was probably around 2021, maybe 2020. I think it was 2020 actually. So I'd only been beekeeping at this point for a year, but we had COVID had hit and everything was on lockdown. So I was trying to find some ways to make some additional money outside of just doing removals. And so I picked up a pollination contract with a company called Caprock Berry Farms, and they specifically worked on strawberries at that time. And they were still pretty new, and they had a small plot of land, which was just perfect for me because I wasn't a big operation at that time. So I moved out. He needed two beehives, and so I moved out two beehives to this location out near north of Idalou, Texas, kind of out in, I don't want to say the middle of nowhere, but it's off the beaten path. You have to know where you're going to find this place. And you go from a paved road to then a caliche road, go down a few miles, and then you find it. Well, I put out two of my best hives because it was my first pollination that I was doing. I was getting paid for the growing season, and I was having to go out about every week or two just to feed the bees because at that time when strawberries bloom, it's pretty early in the season. I want to say the strawberries were blooming in mid March to almost late March. And during that time in this region of West Texas, unless it's rained early, we don't see any blooms. So it's one of the first blooms out in the country that we see. And so I'm having to feed while we're doing this pollination. Mainly because there's no diversity of food available for the bees at this time. So we get them out there, and the strawberries they were blooming for at least 2.5 months, I want to say. And towards the end of this pollination contract, I went out to go feed the bees, and we have a feeder inside of these bee boxes. And so I opened up the lid. This particular hive um, had grown rather rapidly. I mean, it's spring, so beehives tend to explode in early spring. This hive is aggressively growing, and I open the top lid to be able to pour some sugar feed down into this feeder. And as soon as that lid came off in the inner cover, I'm looking down, and all the bees that were on this top part of the box just went boom, and I couldn't see. I mean, they're all moving around, and I could barely see through my veil. They are trying to sting me, moving around. It was an uncomfortable situation. And it was probably my first experience with a hive that had turned either extremely defensive or Africanized. Now, I don't have the DNA proof to back that up, but they surely were acting defensive enough that I was a little bit worried. I went ahead and started feeding, and at this time, my suit and my gloves. I mean, I'm still within my first year, and my gear is just cheap, and I'm getting stung as I'm pouring this sugar feed into the feeder. There are bees just coating my white suit, like everything was just basically brown. My whole body is just getting covered in bees, and as I'm pouring this, they're stinging me at a weak spot on my glove right here. And so I'm literally getting stung as I'm feeding. I finished feeding, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not even going to look for anything else in this hive. I'm not doing an inspection. I'm not looking for the queen, nothing. I just put the inner cover on, and I started to walk away. And as I'm walking away, they are finding ways to sting me through my suit. Like when I put my arms down, I'm getting stung here. Like wherever the suit wasn't baggy, like around the shoulders, I'm getting stung up on the shoulder blade area. Where this particular place was, it was just some extra acreage next to a cotton field, and this was an irrigated cotton field. So there is a spigot that irrigates this cotton. It's not being irrigated this time, it's just kind of a setting. So when I go to my truck, and there are so many bees on me that I'm having trouble seeing through my veil. And where I can see through my veil, I can barely see white on my suit. I'm covered in bees. And occasionally I'm getting stung through the suit. And I lost count how many times I was stung, but I think I remember, but by the time I got to my truck, I probably had been stung around 30 times at this point through the suit. And based off what I'm seeing in front of me, I didn't feel good about sitting in my truck. So I'd open the door to my truck and I'm really realizing that I have to sit down and they're stinging me through my suit. If I sit down and if my back is covered, which I can't tell, I don't want to sit on these bees where they're going to sting me. So I decide to walk it off. So I start walking the the dirt path that goes around the cotton field. I mean, again, it's on that spigot, so it's a circle field. And these fields are massive. So I just start walking the worn down dirt path that goes around this cotton spigot. And I've walked at this point the full length of the spigot on this dirt path. And they are still on me. Just that drilling noise. Like if you're a beekeeper, you know what I'm talking about. There's like a drilling noise when they're on you. It's not just a simple buzz. It's like it sounds like an electric drill when it's turned on. Like the stinger is trying to sting you and they are pushing with their wings and it sounds like a drill. I'm just hearing this drilling noise and I'm also smelling the alarm pheromone. So you can actually, if it's enough of it in the air, you can literally smell the alarm pheromone. So this alarm pheromone's in the air and it feels like it's not getting better. And all of a sudden, I feel my heart pop, not pop, but just a sudden beat that was not normal. It was like, mm. And all of a sudden I felt a little better. And I realized that my body had just had a shot of adrenaline. It was pumping adrenaline at this point. Now I wasn't running; I was walking this off, and it just was this sudden surge of adrenaline. And I realized to myself, "Oh my gosh, I could be in real trouble here." And it dawned on me that I was out there alone. No one really knew where I was. I mean, my family knew that I was out working the bees, but I take hours sometimes. So like there's no one really there safeguarding or watching over me while I'm going through this. So I realized at this point, it's like I need to get to safety. So I start walking back to my truck, and I don't know how many stings I've taken through my suit at this point, but I get to the truck, open the door, and I grab my bee brush that was in the truck, and I just start doing this as a precaution, just get as many of them off as I can, and I just hopped in my truck, turned it on, and I took off. And bees behave differently when they're enclosed in a vehicle. They try to get out, like they're bouncing off the windows, and I'm just rolling the windows down, and I'm taking off, and they're just all going out the windows. Thankfully, I did get home okay. I did not have any further issues after the adrenaline pump or anything like that. And I didn't have any severe allergic reactions, but it put me in a situation that was becoming a problem. It was becoming a danger. And as I look back on it now with all the experience I have beekeeping, that's a situation that I never really want to be in it again. Uh, this is one of the big reasons why we really try to control the genetics of our hives. We buy our queens from a breeder who sells to commercial operations. Um, all of our queens are a hybrid between Carniolans, Buckfast, and Italian. They're a hybrid of all three, and they focus on the good traits of all those, and one of those is a calm trait. So since that time, we replace our queens every single year. So that particular hive, what I think had happened is they had grown a new queen. She hatched, mated, came back, and she probably mated with a feral colony that was pretty aggressive. And the new brood that she was laying um, became this aggressive over time. And it probably happened either before I put the bees out there or right as I put the bees out there, because they would have there was some time that it would have had to have passed to get the bees to develop that much defensive behavior. So anyway, if you enjoyed that story, let me know in the comments. Show lots of likes. If it's something that you enjoyed, I'll give you more stories if it takes off. But really, I'm just trying to fill some space that's easy for me to do um, while my daughter's out this week. So anyway, thank you guys.